Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Everything is Racist. Now, as we all know, the term racist has been largely abused by liberals and people who just call anything they don't like racist. And it's really annoying. It really is. It gets under my skin for sure. But hey, enlightened centrist over here. Because the conservatives are by no means innocent from this either. You see, the left calls everything they don't like racist, and the right calls everything they don't like communist. Seriously, communist has become the racist of the right. But as much as I would love to talk about communism, today we are actually talking about racism, and more specifically, this really cringy article that tries to argue cities are racist or something. I don't know, it is so, unbelievably stupid, and I was gonna read it on a stream, but then I decided, you know what, to hell with it. This is worth a full video for you guys, because it's just that delusional. The unintentional racism found in traffic signals. Now, how people can, see a traffic signal and then decide that it's somehow racist or something is beyond me. The mental gymnastics, I don't know, I'm not flexible enough for that. But yeah, here we have another article with somebody reading way too deep into shit like this. Remember just a couple weeks ago, I did the feminist article on how cities are sexist? Well, now we have this article on how cities are racist. Can these people even cross the street without seeing racism? Or penises. Washington, D.C.'s pro football team, Aunt Jemima pancake products, Eskimo pies, they're all examples of the everyday racism that bombards people of color, from the supermarket to the playing field. They're also all iconic American products, but what about the far more subtle streams of everyday racism that course through our homes, our workplaces, and the outside world? These instances may be far subtler than a mascot or an offensive term, but are no less pervasive and no less deserving of cultural reckoning. For me, this reckoning begins with traffic signals. So, a very, very dramatic opening. Wow, I thought it was going somewhere important, and then all of a sudden it just, melts down to him bitching about traffic signals. Alright, let's see, which one is the racist one? A few months back, before COVID-19 kept us in our homes and George Floyd made us take to the streets, I was walking with a friend, her daughter, and my twin sons. My friend is white and I'm not, something I'd never given a second thought until we reached a crosswalk. "Remember, honey," she said to her daughter as we waited for the light to turn green, "we need to wait for the little white man to appear before we can cross the street." Uh-oh. I'm instantly seeing the problem. The little man? What color is he? Not black. He's white. I don't care who you are, but that shit, my friends, is problematic. Trigger warning. Racism ahead. Wow, look at that. Oh my goodness. You see, when I look at that, you know what I think of? A white person. I don't think that this is just some silhouette of a person set to be the brightest possible so it's easy to see. No. I see this like a little white man on the way to a KKK rally. I realize that white people like to exert control over nearly everything everyone does, but since when did this literally include trying to cross the street? Okay, please stop. Holy fuck. So first of all, he says he never noticed really that they were his friends were white and he was black, but then right after he hears, "Hey honey, once the little white guy pops up, we can cross the street, okay?" He instantly is like, I'm black. She's white. White people like to exert control over everything, including crossing the street. But as a black dad, I was struck by the language at play. How is it possible that well into the 21st century, parents all over Manhattan, well-meaning, #Black Lives Matter marching parents, are teaching their children to ask little white men for permission to cross the street? And why doesn't this seem to bother them? Maybe because they're not delusional idiots that see race in virtually everything. Also, by your own admission, she said, "We need to wait for the little white man to appear before we can cross the street." Why are you equating this with asking white people for permission to cross the street? What do you think, her little toddler's gonna just go over and find some random white guy and be like, "Hi, am I able to cross the street? I didn't want to ask any of those blacks over there." I just love how he comes to this really stupid conclusion by going through a bunch of mental gymnastics and hoops, and then it's like, why doesn't this seem to bother anyone else? It's like, because you're the only idiot dumb enough to read this deep into shit like this. Technology and necessity propelled the shift from verbal crosswalk cues to a lunar white walking person, but my heart still sinks at the specter of teaching my sons to ask a white man for permission to do, well, anything. I'm not even sure, like, I know how to respond to this. It went off the rails so stinking fast. 1 second he's going on about how, like, oh, I didn't even notice that we were different color. I'm not like that, you know, whatever. And then all of a sudden he's like, I don't want my sons to ask white people for permission for anything.
Not even if that white guy is literally his boss.
It certainly bothered me, so much so that I began to dig deep into my 40-something consciousness to try and remember if I was raised asking a little white guy to let me cross the street. Oh my god, this guy's 40 years old going this deep about just literally just saying, hey, the little white guy has to appear, then we can go. I wanted to know how and why this gender and race-neutral messaging had been replaced by little white men. My quest first led me to traffic light manufacturers, who then led me to pedestrian safety. Okay, can we just appreciate how far this guy's going? Can we, like, you have access to Google, right? I'm pretty sure you could do some basic research and find out when things changed or whatever. But again, you're the one making this little white man thing about race, like about being a literal white person. And now you're exhausting all of your mental energy on this one little snippet, this one little soundbite that you heard from your friend. This is where things get interesting, because it turns out that the little white man who raised my ire isn't exactly white. He isn't even really a man. No shit! I had no clue! Really? I thought this was a literal Caucasian person. And listen, he even admits that he's just wrong. So the little man is actually a little person, but that little person is still white, right? Close, it's lunar white. It's a shade of white with yellow and gray accents that mimics the color of the moon. So it wasn't chosen because it sounded cool, it was chosen because it's the peak sensitivity for the rod cells in the human retina. So in other words, our vision is predisposed to favoring the clarity and intensity of moonlight. Okay, so there's your answer. Stop with the racist bullshit. Stop with the, like, over-analyzing things. Stop trying to think all deep about something that's just not deep. Go home. Go take care of your kids. Go do other shit. But stop with this. But instead of just taking the L and just leaving it at that, he then just doubles down anyway. But my heart still sinks at the specter of teaching my sons to ask a white man for permission to do, well, anything, because so much of the world already insists that we do. So what was even the point of, like, admitting that you were wrong? You were basically like, I heard my friend say this meaningless little soundbite. I went way too deep into what it really meant and the subtle undertones and all this bullshit, and then turns out I was wrong, but hey, it's still sad that my sons are gonna have to ask white men for permission to do anything. Which, by the way, is kind of racist. Again, you're the one making this all about race. I don't even think your average, like, actual racist white person walks down the street, sees this thing, and then is like, what? Ah, yes, a reminder of the superior Aryan race. At a time when the totems of systemic anti-blackness are being dismantled at a surprising pace, there comes a moment when you have to consider the endgame, and traffic lights are one of those moments. Because while this highly politicized period does demand a racial rethink, overhauling the stoplight industrial complex is probably not the best use of our resources. Thank you for admitting this. A white man isn't really telling us when to cross the street, so this article here is getting more and more annoying because it's so confusing. He's like admitting he's wrong. He's then saying, I don't want my kids to ask white people for anything, but then he's saying it's not really asking white people. Guys, come on. It's like, what are you doing? What are you rambling about? And so, as I begin teaching my boys survival basics like riding a bike, waiting in line, and yes, crossing the street, I'll work hard to avoid phrases like little white man. Obviously, bright little person rolls off the tongue far less mellifusively. That's a word that doesn't roll off the tongue. But a bit of extra verbal labor is worth the price of not conceding our power to even one more little white man. So there you guys have it. Traffic lights are not actually racist by this guy's own admission. It's not really asking white men for anything, but the language is still problematic. So he's gonna make sure to use very specific different language so that he doesn't teach his kids that they need to listen to one more little white man. My question is, what about when the traffic sign looks like this, when it's green? Is it like, kids, you never have to take orders from a little green man, all right? If those aliens ever come invade us, You just tell them no. Well, there you guys have it. One of the probably dumbest and most annoying articles I've ever read on this channel, but I figured, hey, it was well worth it so you guys could just bask in the stupidity, and you could let me be your human shield. You can let me read this all for you, so you can hide behind me, listening timidly while I take the hits. Please give this video a like, comment below, and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget, when you cross the street, you might be a raging racist. Peace.